All right, welcome back to Mostly Technical. This week, no Ian. Ian is a no man, and he said no to the podcast, and so he's out today. I think he's at Disney, which we all know my feelings on Disney. But no shade to Ian. I think we might have a better co-host here.
Uh-oh.
We'll see.
Uh-oh.
We got Jordan Gall on the show today. I'm super excited. We've been friends. I feel like we've been internet friends for a long time, but never spoken. So this is our maiden voyage. Welcome, Jordan, to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. Aaron, have we not spoken like on Zoom or something? We must have.
I don't think we have. I've heard you talk about me on your show, and you've heard me talk about you on my show.
Yes.
And we've DM'd, but we've never spoken.
Very funny. I feel like I know you. And
Same.
I have questions for you. I'm looking forward to getting to know you more.
I can't wait. Also, I'm kind of nervous, but I can't wait.
Well, look, the number one rule I have for this podcast is we cannot talk trash about Ian. He's not here to defend himself.
So okay, Ian, that was my number one. That was my number one topic. So dang it. That's too bad. And thank you for wearing the uniform, the black shirt and the glasses. I really appreciate that.
You know, this is my actual uniform. This is maybe 4 out of 5 days a week.
Yep.
So it's not for you. It's just the uniform. It happens to be very similar to yours.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Have you considered the LASIK surgery?
No, I haven't, because at this point, it's part of the style. Like I like wearing glasses.
That's how I feel. The other day, I thought maybe I can get the surgery and still wear glasses. No, I can't live with myself if I do that.
Yeah, fashion glasses are tough to rationalize, in my opinion. I know that people do it, but I would feel a little bit inauthentic wearing fashion glasses.
Fair.
Yeah. All right, so you're here.
I am.
I've heard you doing the tour. I've listened to all of your guest shows. You did one with Rob recently. Rob Walling, Startups for the Rest of Us.
Yes.
So I feel like I have a little bit of backstory of what you're up to. Where do you want to start? I've got topics. I've got topics for you. We could talk Rosie, which is your new startup. You could ask me questions. What do you want to do?
Okay. So I do have some topics.
Okay.
I want to give, to at least some of these topics around Rosie and what I've learned. It is, but before we get there, let's get there. But I do want to talk first. I want to ask you about podcasting.
Okay.
I want to ask you one thing very specifically to start off. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I associate you with the phrase, you can just do things.
Love that for me.
What I want to know is it your original, or do you so embody this phrase that the association is very close for me? Which one is it?
It's good for the lore and for the aura to say, this is mine and I invented it.
Yes.
I'm not sure that is true. I'm pretty sure that is not true. I don't think I am the originator of the phrase, but I think to some extent in our maybe our little corner, I have popularized it enough that people associate it with me, which is good enough. That's good enough for me.
Yes. Fair, humble, honest, and it does answer the question. Because I was genuinely clear. Because I find myself saying it all the time now. It's great.
It's just so pithy. You'll be pleased to know I do own the domain youcanjustdothings.com.
That might be the deciding factor. You now own
maybe it's mine. I don't know. Who can say?
Okay.
So yeah, and I do love when Sam Altman will say something like, you can just do things, and people will tag like, hey, did you steal that from Aaron? And I'm like, I don't know, guys.
Look, good ideas are contagious, as are bad ideas, but we like to push the good ideas. I have another question for you.
I love this. This is great.
All right. So here's the thing.
Okay.
You've seen me on a bunch of podcasts for two reasons. One good, one not bad, maybe ugly. Let's call it. Okay. The first reason is because I am trying to figure out how to create more content.
Sure.
And I plan on starting my own podcast in the future. So I was like, best way to do that, let me go onto these shows. The second reason you've seen me on all these, just seen more of me, is because Rosie's doing well.
Okay.
And that is a weird thing, because that means my confidence is directly tied to the performance of the business. And my willingness to go out there and create content and be in front of people and basically talk with some sense of authority relies on the success of the company that I'm currently building. And if I have to kind of confess, when things were not going well with Rally, I felt inauthentic coming out and being like, here's what you should do. Here's what worked for me. Because nothing was really working. So anyway, that's somewhat ugly. The question is, what makes a podcast compelling? What makes you want to hit play on a podcast? All of this stuff that I'm doing, I'm trying to figure out what kind of podcast I want to create.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been trying to analyze it by looking at my Spotify podcast list
Mm-hmm.
and trying to identify, why do I want to hit play or not hit play? So what is it? I think of your podcast with Ian as one of the ones that I want to hit play. I want to ask you what you think does it. What makes a podcast
that's interesting.
compelling?
Okay, so as an avid podcast listener, I listen to tons of podcasts.
Yep.
So I feel well qualified to answer this. I really like the ride along shows. That's what I like. That's what I liked about your show that you did with Brian for so long. That's what I liked about Art of Product, Hackers Incorporated for a second, old school startups for the rest of us when Rob and Mike were on there just sharing the journey.
Okay.
I like the ride along. What's going on this week? How's your father? What's the good word? That kind of stuff, right?
Okay.
So I like to know the cast of characters, and I like to know, like, hey, this person, it's like a longitudinal study in a business. Okay. And so I get to hear the ups and the downs. I get to hear that we tried this, this didn't work. That's why I think Art of Product was so good, because Ben and Derek were both like
active
building.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. They were building. And every week, Ben would come on and be like, well, I did an enterprise sale and I just, multiplied the number times 10 and they still said yes. And I'm like, this is great. This is gold. I love hearing this.
And you hear something that came up a month ago and then where it ended up.
Yes, exactly. And so the thing that I don't like as much is when people pivot to interview only. I don't like that as much, because then I'm like, do I want to listen to this guest talk about this thing that doesn't matter to me?
Right. And the host that you might have a connection with isn't really part of that conversation. They're facilitating the conversation, but it's not the same thing. Okay.
Yes, exactly. So when you and Jordan, or you are Jordan, when you and Brian are talking about how you're like trying to do, back in the rally days, you're trying to like figure out this headless, checkout thing. And it's like, this doesn't apply to me at all. And if I didn't know you and you were a guest and went on somebody else's show, I'd be like, headless checkout? Like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Skip that.
But I've listened to every single one of your episodes because it's like, I am invested and I am following along. And so maybe back to your bad or your ugly reason for not going on. I have found the most enjoyable podcasts to not be the ones that are like, here's exactly what you should do. Here are 10 takeaways for, B2B sales or something. I've found the ones that I enjoy the most to be, here's what I have done. And maybe it worked, maybe it didn't work. But the big difference is, here's what you should do and here's what I have done. I'm always picking, here's what I have done every time.
Okay. Very interesting. We line up on a lot of it. First of all, you like narrative nonfiction.
Yes.
Right? That's basically what it's just in real time. A podcast allows for narrative nonfiction in real time. Written on the spot, audibly.
Yes.
It is kind of exciting. It's fun that way.
Yes. Yes.
Yep. Yeah. I when I first set out in my mind, I said, okay, I'm gonna start a podcast. The obvious thing in front of you is an interview show.
Yep.
Because that allows you to interview people from your space, from your ICP. You can interview people. It's like strategic. Like, I'm going to talk to this person who runs a $20 million roofing company that they acquired using an SBA loan. And that is going to get pushed out. And my ICP is going to be attracted to that because it is just like them or just like who they want to be. My problem with that was my original thought on the new podcast. My problem is it didn't sound like any fun.
No, I'll be honest. It doesn't.
Doesn't sound like fun.
It really doesn't.
And when I think about my Spotify playlist, what does it for me is that it sounds like fun. I listen to too much politics. So when I get real full on that, because that's not fun these days, I look for some form of an escape, but that's business adjacent or interest adjacent.
You can at least tell yourself it's business. Yes.
Kind of. Yeah. I'm not looking to like make my business better. I'm looking to hang out with some people.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I like David Chang.
Okay, I don't know David Chang.
Okay, he's a chef. He
Okay.
runs Momofuku, interesting businesses, interesting restaurants, and it's like a hang.
Mm-hmm.
I think about your podcast, and one of the reasons I really like it is because it is half hang
Mm-hmm.
and half business. So it's got the narrative nonfiction line running through it, but you're not in a rush to
Correct.
just get to business and talk about the thing that worked or didn't work and just, focus on that.
Yep. It is not the most value dense format. The way that we do the show is not the most value dense, but we're also not in the value dense game. We're in the sweet hang game. You know?
Yes.
That's the game that we're playing. And I saw you tagged group chat news. That's why we love group chat.
Yep.
That's why we love that podcast.
Yep.
Because they yuck it up for half the show, and the other half they're talking about what they're seeing as, retailers, and is the consumer soft. And I'm like,
yes,
I don't know anything about this. Tell me more.
Right. And it doesn't directly impact your business, but it's just interesting in general.
It is.
And if you take 10 minutes and talk about the golf tournament you went to, it's still interesting because I like you and I want to hear about it. Yeah. So I've been trying to figure out what that is and what that format is.
Yeah.
And so maybe this is a good transition. I can talk about the thinking there and where the podcast is going to live in Rosie's business in general, because this is not for me personally.
Yes. So I want to hear you back up a little bit and tell me the story of the end of Bootstrapped Web, and now you've both gone on to do new podcasts that are similar and different formats. I mean, he's doing the panel with Justin Jackson, which is very enjoyable.
Yeah, same.
You're looking for something that I think is more like pointed at the people that would consume Rosie. And so tell us, couch it in that narrative. Give us the kind of the story there.
Sure. Well, Brian and I had a great time. We did a podcast for 10 years.
10 years.
Yep. We really saw each other through, a big portion of our lives and careers, family, having kids, moving cities, the whole thing. So it was a lot of fun. The way Brian and I started out was through Mixergy. Okay, back in the day, Mixergy posted something about Andrew Warner, right, from Mixergy. He posted something that was like, what if I did a mastermind? Would you be interested in it? So both Brian and I reached out and were accepted into the original mastermind with Brennan Dunn, with a few other guys.
Boy,
yep,
old school names. I remember Brennan Dunn being big on the scene.
That's right.
Those were the days.
What Brian and I realized by some insane coincidence is that we lived 10 minutes from each other.
I did not know that.
Yes, we both lived in Connecticut. I lived in Westport. He lived in Norwalk. 10 minutes from each other, and we were like, well, this is weird. I guess we should get to know each other. And that's where the podcast started from. So we really started way back.
Yeah.
In terms of the end of the podcast, I think it was just time. We were starting to go in different directions. I think the most important thing is I was holding him back because I started looking at the podcast as this just a fun thing I did on Fridays. But I needed to put more effort in. And it wasn't fair to him because he was putting effort in. And I was just showing up on Friday and then walking away. I didn't promote it. I didn't even say, hey, we have a new episode. I just thought of it as this therapy session for myself. And I had fun. And it was valuable for me to synthesize the stuff at the end of the week. But it started coming out of whack. And I'm not surprised right now that he's going off and doing something, I think, better. And I'm going to go off and do something better because we're breathing new life and energy into what we're doing on the podcast front from a different point of view, maybe a more honest point of view. No, I need to do this and I want to do this for myself in this way. So it was just time. It was 10 years. It was awesome.
10 years. I remember, I think I started listening back when Restaurant Engine was a thing. I remember listening through your decision to move cities.
Yep.
I followed that thing for forever.
Yeah.
So
it's a trip.
Yeah. Had a big impact on me. So
it's
that
great.
Was a fun show.
Thank you for saying that. And I'm glad it exists and lives on the internet in general. And that's great. Now it's time to do something else. And I don't necessarily care to link it to Rosie's ICP. I think the most important thing is to have a great time and really enjoy it. And I think that will be the most compelling version of a podcast that I can do. The exact format, I'm not sure of.
So what is the so if you're justifying putting more time into it and you're saying, all right, I need to put some effort, I need to bring some stuff, I need to promote, like I'm going to make this a part of my life and my business. What is your like desired outcome from doing a podcast like that, if not necessarily linked to Rosie's ICP?
Yeah, so a lot of this stuff I end up going through a similar cycle where a lot of it starts off as this very calculated, somewhat cynical decision of I want content for Rosie.
Okay.
And then I back away off the cynicism and I say, well, okay, how do I make it enjoyable? How do I make it so that I care about it? Because that's actually the best version of the product.
I would challenge cynicism, and I would say it's strategic. That's extremely strategic.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's where it fits in. We launched Rosie. I guess July we took on our first users, and then August first, like, yes, you can log in. Here's a username and password version of the product. And then October, it started working with the first cohort, and we asked them for money. And then we started making our way toward like self-serve. And then it really kind of popped when we added a few features and self-serve. And we can talk about that process that I'm calling an Hourglass process. We'll get into that.
Oh, we love a name. We love a name for things. That's great.
I think names are important.
Oh,
you know what I call
great.
these? I call all these lies. LAH.
Okay.
Like learning in hindsight. Lessons in hindsight.
That's great. That's great. You fit in perfectly here. Okay, keep going.
Yes.
We'll come to Hourglass later. That's great.
Cool. So where it fits in right now is that advertising is working for us. I did not expect ads to work for us, but I had a hunch that it could because our ICP being like small businesses and local services, I just think they behave like consumers and they're just hanging out on Instagram and TikTok like everybody else. So we have been pushing ads there and it really worked. So we are ramping up investment. And I'm a little shocked by how much money we're spending on ads. It feels very strange to do so, but that's why we raised venture. So ads are working.
Okay.
Got a great SEO company on board. Got them on board probably in December, and now it's like officially, working and publishing things all the time and so on. And so the next step is more content. And so I tried to think about how do I create content that makes sense for the business in a way that doesn't make me cringe too much and all that. I decided that the best way to go with content for me as the founder, because I think people don't pay attention to companies. I don't pay attention to any companies.
I agree.
I don't care at all what a company says. Okay. So that was like the first big fork in the road. Okay. It's got to come from me. So what I did is I hired a content agency that creates content from me as the founder.
Okay.
So now we're talking strategic. You don't want to call it cynical, but strategic. Okay. Next thing we
can call it ruthlessly strategic if you want.
Sure. Yes.
That's fine.
So think about, put yourself in these shoes. You're going to go spend money, and this company is going to create a lot of content that comes from you and your Twitter profile and your Facebook profile and your LinkedIn profile and everything else. Once you internalize that that's about to happen, you have a choice. You could not care and embrace the cringe, or you could care and say, I got to make this good. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yep.
There's a whole bunch of content. I'm about to be a thread boy, on the internet. And yes, you got to live with your decisions, right? Here we go. So starting in like a week or two, you're going to start to see a lot more content from me. And when I thought about that, I started to sweat from shame and embarrassment.
Sure.
And the only way I can kind of get through that is by saying, I'm going to make this good. And the best way that I can make it good is to generate the foundational content for all of it through a podcast. The medium,
you need a sparring partner.
The medium that I'm most comfortable and most confident in, talking on video like this. Let that be the foundation of the content that they can clip from, they could take ideas from, turn into threads, turn into posts, turn into carousels or whatever else there is. So that is where the podcast thinking came from.
Okay, so I buy it because back up 30 to 60 seconds. You're the agency. Back up this show 30 to 60 seconds, and you've got a blog post, a thread, a LinkedIn post, all about authentic content from the founders. And then it came off the top of your head while you were speaking, in the zone, hyped up. And now in that chunk, they've got a week's worth of content right there.
Yes. So that is the ideal. And so because of that, I am allowing myself to not worry about the content being so right for the ICP. right? That, look, I started off thinking I need to create a show for SMB AI.
Right.
How are SMBs using AI in their business? In a calculated way, that's probably the best content for our ICP. But I'm gonna lose my mind from boredom doing that.
And honestly, Chris, my lawn guy, isn't looking for podcasts about AI and SMB, frankly. He's just mowing lawns and making a ton of money.
Yeah. Yes, great business, actually.
Yeah. I know. I pay him. It must be.
Yeah, I have the kind of landscaper that just doesn't bill me and then sends me like a $2,000 bill 6 weeks later. And I'm like, why? What'd you do?
I got one of those when we sold, like a few years ago, we sold a house. And to my credit, I had flagged this guy down 3 or 4 or 5 times and been like, hey, can I like pay you?
Yes, invoice.
Do you have an invoice? Can I pay you? And he's like, yes, you can pay me. I'll get you an invoice.
Right.
Nothing. Put a for sale sign in my yard, got a bill for $3,000.
Yes,
and I was like, okay. Where's the documentation?
Yeah, help me out.
Oh, I don't have it.
Yeah,
so,
it's tough. It's my job to make sure that guy has an AI answering their phone before they have an invoicing system. Okay? Wish me luck.
That's fine. Yeah. Good luck. Yeah, that's fine. The new guy sends me a Venmo request every week, and I just good job. Way to go. It's great. I love it.
So if we go back into the podcast thing, now that I'm fully engaged in this mindset around generating content, I think what you'll find, everyone listening to this, if you become more aware of what you're doing during the week, you're actually a content machine. You have
100%.
There's so much. So much. And I have a list of things that I can go through from the last few weeks and months of Rosie that I basically just formalized. I talk about them all the time internally. It's almost like I practice explaining my thinking to people on our team to effectively to justify my decisions as CEO. Here's an example. Why is Rosie a horizontal software and not verticalized? Okay. Generally speaking, advice to a software founder, I would say, don't be general, find a niche.
Yep.
Nail it for them.
Do the Nathan Barry. Yes. Do the Nathan Barry, do bloggers or whatever, and then just make a ton of money. You
are good at this because
I'm in the game. I've listened, man.
That is okay. Good. So that's my example.
Yep.
My example is ConvertKit. If email gets invented, you don't build ConvertKit. You build MailChimp. When the market is just forming, you go very horizontal to capture as much of the wave that's on the way as possible. And then you have a problem on how to verticalize. Do you build extra features for specific verticals? Is it just a marketing play where you have a page and a case study and a whatever geared toward that? And that's kind of later. So here's the thing. You've probably heard me say that before, right? On Rob's podcast. So I'm like, turn into like an actor practicing my lines.
Yep.
And then look, that's a little bundle of content.
It is.
That's a little package. And how do I've never been able, I don't have discipline like you.
Well,
you make like
I appreciate it, but I don't know.
You make like 30 videos a week.
Sometimes.
I think about them and I don't make them. And my hope is that this content agency and this potential shame around being too cringy and my own content coming from me being bad has finally motivated me to go just far enough in packaging these little bits of content to at least hand them over to someone that I paid to actually post them as content. That's
being driven by shame. I can't endorse that strategy, but if it works, I'm proud for you. So here's I fundamentally 100% agree. And to point out someone who does this super well, I think, would be pointing back to our mutual friend, Justin Jackson. So Justin will, back when he was on Twitter, RIP, Justin will go on Twitter and throw out an idea, right? He'll throw out an idea. He'll like, yuck it up with the normies and go back and forth and banter.
Okay.
Then he talks about it on some podcast. Then he puts it out in some newsletter. And then it comes back out on Twitter in a more refined fashion. And it's just like, he just kind of bandies about the idea or the problem until it's refined and honed down into something that ends up as a blog post and a newsletter and a podcast episode and now a YouTube video. And I think that is that's like a very good way to hone the message. And I think partially also what you're describing is bits and shticks, right? We've got bits, we've got shticks. I've got my, you can just do things, you know, try
Yep.
hard, like all of those things. Like they end up being, I think, functionally memes, but not like, you know, cheap images. But it's like,
Yeah.
it's a simplification of kind of like a point of view or a way of living or an idea. And if you do that enough, people start adding on to it for you. Like you asked at the beginning, like, I see people saying this. Did you invent this? And it's like, no, but if you say something enough, people start attributing it to you. And podcasts are a great way to get that, like, that first draft out there, especially if you, like me, have a good sparring partner. I've got Ian, who is like very smart, doesn't always agree with me, which is amazing. But wants me to succeed. And so he's always trying to like, let's get to a good place together, even if we fundamentally disagree on some things. And so I'm all on board as podcast as like, we could say content engine, even if, you know, Chris at the landscaping service doesn't listen to the show. It is the nugget from which other things can, you know, spring.
Yes. I'm pushing off the ICP concern out into the future because I think it's because I have felt what you feel and other podcasters feel. You don't just give and it works out. It'll all come back around. You really don't have to think about the outcome. You just keep doing your thing and keep giving. And it makes everything easier and better. So I'm just really just pushing off that concern because in reality, after 2 months of doing my podcast and 8 episodes are out, when I then reach out to the amazing deck building company in California, this guy on Twitter's awesome. He doesn't know me right now. 2 months from now, it's much more likely that he'll say, yes, I'd love to come on the podcast.
100%. Yes.
So it's like, I'll worry about that later. That's fine.
Yep. And now with, as you well know, all these AI tools, they can gather your digital detritus, right? So you've got a bunch of tweets, you've got a bunch of podcast transcripts, you've got maybe some newsletters. They can grab it all. And I have done this. I have actively done this many times. I exported an archive of all my tweets. So I have them all. I've got blog posts that I've written turned into like, you know, one giant PDF. And then I've got all podcast transcripts on aaronfrancis.com. And so then I can go to Gemini Deep Research and say, hey, here's what I want you to look at. Look at everything I've said on this topic, this idea, pull examples from the shows I've been on, and write me a first draft. Here's the title, and here are the key highlights I want you to hit. And it like spits out a first draft. And it's all stuff that I've said. It's just like scattered across the web, and it pulls it all together for me. It's awesome.
Yeah, very interesting. I have not done anything like that. Reminds me of a very funny experience we had a few nights ago. My wife had her first AI experience of like, oh my God, this thing works. And what was it for? It was for a scavenger hunt set of poems on where to go in our house next.
Cool.
And it did it so perfectly. But it's a reminder. You can do more with your content than you think you can.
Yes.
With these AI tools, I don't think of that, but that's very interesting. I would love to put all of my podcasts somewhere to be able to access it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Especially you with 10 years of podcasts, you've got transcripts. I mean, you've talked about a ton of stuff. And so getting all of that transcribed and searchable, but like consumable by an LLM.
Yes.
Your agency, you're going to be the easiest client your agency has ever had. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. That's my hope is that the content they create originates from my thinking and my experience.
As it should.
Right. That's kind of what you want. And I have been taking tweets and posts and showing them I like this and I don't like this. And I identify very, very strongly with your preference for advice on it being, here's what I did. Here's what I learned. As opposed to, this is the way it's done.
Yes.
Here's how you should do it. If you're not doing it, you're doing it wrong.
Yes.
Yep.
I don't like that. I don't like that to consume. I also don't like that to produce. And I think a lot of people try to produce content like that. Like, here's the way you should do things. And it's a very high bar. Like if you're intellectually honest, it's a very high bar to say, here's the way you should do things.
With no doubt.
If you're a grifter, it's fine. You can just say that, right?
Well, the danger is the grifter is confident. And then there's like this mimetic like experience where people are like, I guess that's what gets likes.
Yep.
But it is unhealthy, not good.
Yes. Yes. And so it creates this artificially high bar, and people don't produce content because they're intellectually honest and don't want to say this is the 100% right way to do things, when really I want to hear how you did something.
Yeah.
And you can tell me why you thought it was the best way to do it, but don't tell me that it is, but just tell me what you did. That's all I want to know.
It's tough because declarative on Twitter is better than caveats. And
it's a nightmare. I don't know if you've seen the most recent trend of like the first sentence is Salesforce is dead. And then it's like, 3 paragraphs of like why AI is like better than, and it's like one of them recently was like Stripe is dead, and then it was pitching a product that's built on top of Stripe, and I'm like, what are you doing?
That's perfect.
Come on. Yeah, it's a nightmare. Okay, I'm pro podcast for you.
Yeah.
We got to get this going.
Yeah, I'm going. Well, I'm not going right now because I'm going to Hawaii on Wednesday.
Yeah, you are.
I'm not going to think about any of this.
Okay.
I am going to think about it, but just think.
Of course you are. Yeah, of course you are.
Here's a recommendation. I'm going to do a recommendation real quick, and then I want to get into something concrete about time. You can choose early product market fit, the hourglass process, or time versus usage based trials. Okay, but first, while you think about that, here's my recommendation. My recommendation is a little piece of hardware called Brick.
Got it.
You got it?
I have it. Okay, I think because of you.
Oh, no way. Okay, so I'm so excited for this week to use it in my hotel room because you have to touch your phone up against it, and when you do that, it blocks only certain apps. Because I need, and this is a perfect excuse, I need my phone. When I'm in Hawaii, I need Waze, I need Google Maps, I need Yelp, I need the phone itself, and I don't need Slack, and I don't need Twitter. And so
Slack, I agree with. But yeah, keep going.
Right. Well, for me, it's business and politics. I'd rather read Kindle and hang out with my kids. Right?
Yes, that's probably fair.
So that's my recommendation is this piece of hardware called Brick. That's fantastic. And then in order to unlock those apps, you have to touch it physically up against the brick.
Physically.
So I'll leave it in the hotel room.
Yep.
And, okay. So I'm very excited about that and my ability to unplug. And
I'm excited for you. The Brick, I think it's like Brick It app or something. You'll find it. You can Google it. Brick. It's an NFC thing, and I don't know how they do it, but it like hooks into the Screen Time APIs, and so you're like, all right, I'm ready to brick, and you click the button on your phone, and then you walk over to your physical device, and you like push your phone down, and it scans, and then you can't get in.
Yep.
Like it's game over.
Yeah. To only
and so. Yeah, and so then I have one in my car and one on my nightstand. And so like on Saturday I try to brick my phone before I walk out to go get the kids up because it's like it's Saturday. You don't need to be arguing with people on Twitter. So brick your phone.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love Brick.
I do the same for dinner time.
Yep.
Like my kids are finally home, like get off the damn phone.
Yes, exactly.
With moderate success. If
moderate, yes.
But this week in Hawaii, full success. I'm looking forward to it.
I love that you're as much of a Twitter addict as I am. I think you lean way harder onto politics Twitter and for good reasons in most cases, but you're very online, and I love that about you.
It's addicting knowing everything.
It is. It's not great. It's not great.
It's not great.
No.
Plenty of money spent on therapy.
Yes. Yes,
okay.
absolutely.
Are you ready? I'm gonna give you the choices.
Okay.
Hourglass, like feature product process,
Mm-hmm.
early product market fit, and time versus usage based trials.
Okay, I've got my answer. Before we do that, this podcast is brought to you by Bento. BentoNow.com. Bento is the email service provider, the refreshingly delightful email marketing platform. We use that at TryHard Studios for both marketing and transactional emails. So check out Bento at BentoNow.com. Thank you to Bento for sponsoring. And PHP Tech 2025. PHP Tech is the conference for continuing education and community building for PHP developers. It is May 20th to 22nd in Chicago. So thank you to PHP Tech at phptech.io for sponsoring the show. All right, I've got my answer. Early product market fit. Okay. For sure. Because you've taken off like a rocket. You banged your head against the wall trying to beat, the goons at Shopify.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to do generational trauma, but I want to talk to you about Shopify checkout because I just had an experience.
Sure.
But you banged your head against the wall, sheer force of will for a super long time, and you're like, finally, you know what? F this. I'm going to switch into AI voice answering.
Yep.
And you took off like a rocket. This is what I want to hear about.
Okay. I think I talked about this maybe on Rob's pad, or maybe it was in private with Rob. But it was a strange experience to have product market fit a few years ago with the checkout product.
Mm-hmm.
Then rebuild the same checkout product, more or less, but better, with more money, with better design, with better team, with better everything, and then just not have product market fit. So, that was a painful lesson.
Yeah, when you've been to the mountaintop.
Yep. And then you build the same product and you're like, same mountaintop, here we go, but bigger and better and more resources and all that. And nope, it's not really in your control. And then all of a sudden, to basically just face reality and say, we should stop pushing this boulder up the hill. It's too heavy. Pushing a boulder up the hill, that like cartoon that is being a founder and an entrepreneur. Sure. But I guess sometimes you just go find a different boulder. So that's what we did.
All right, so let me give the people the broad strokes.
Sure.
You had a very successful company that was a third-party checkout for Shopify that boosted average order value with upsells, downsells, cross-sells, all sorts of stuff.
Yep.
Went great, ran into platform risk pretty head-on, and they were like, you know what? Actually, we want to own the checkout. Thanks. See you later.
Appreciate the innovation that everyone wants, but we'll just inhale that into our system and commodify what you're doing. And
so it's not so much you took your ball and went home, it's they took your ball and you went home.
Yes.
And so then you went out and built the same thing, which was like a third-party checkout, but in like this whole headless e-commerce space, and found the market very, very difficult, is my understanding. And so then after that, you're building this thing, you're spending a bunch of money on salaries and sales, and finally you're just like, y'all, I don't think this is working. Incredibly bold and brave move to say, not only is this not working, but we're not pivoting, we're just starting something brand new.
Yes.
It's not a pivot. It is like, I'm gonna go on a journey for 3 weeks and find out what we're gonna do next. And if you want to come along when I get back, we'd love to have you. And so you went into the wilderness, talked to a bunch of people, came back with AI answering sits above an answering service below a full human. So those are the broad strokes.
Yes, that's right. So those are the broad strokes. We had money in the bank, and just like you said, we took the team down from like 20 to 6 and said, if you want to stick around, this is what we're doing. Here's why I think it's going to work. I understand if you're no longer interested in this version of the experience. So
do you still have Rock?
Yes, co-founder. Yeah.
Oh, co-founder. Okay, because he was your CTO before at the old company,
and then co-founder. Yep, that's right. Okay. And then Jessica also, who is like basically a co-founder but not in name. And she's the VP of product, and she's the one that kind of saved Cardhook from going off the rails when we had so much demand and we're growing so fast, but we're churning like it just wasn't going to work out.
Yeah.
And she came in to kind of like button up the whole process. And so she came over to rally with us also. And she's like, the leadership team is myself and Rock and Jessica.
Okay. And last interruption, but Rock's a Laravel guy, right?
Rock is a PHP Laravel guy in Slovenia.
Yep.
Yes. So we've been in the Laravel ecosystem since Cardhook. Like my original co-founder at Cardhook, Ben, was also a big Laravel guy, still is. And I think that was like the gateway into that, along with the microconf community and everything else.
Yep. All right. Shout out Ben and Rock. Good job. Good choices, guys. All right. Early product market fit.
Yes. Okay. So my take was this thing's got to work quickly. Yeah. So if we don't see it working quickly, I mean, those investor updates were tough, but yes, we've raised $18 million for a checkout. And we've decided to do this completely different thing. I'm not religious on investor updates. I don't get them out every month on time. I'm bad about that, but they are always consistent. There's always one on the way. And people saw that we tried a lot of different things. We tried hard.
Yeah.
So they weren't that surprised. And, as long as we had our lead investor who's on the board, like fully engaged and on board, which he is because I talk to him all the time. So we made the pivot, and what I was desperately on the lookout for product market fit. I was like, how am I going to know? Because we need to know quickly. Originally, we went in and we said, we're going to build one product every 3 months and then see if it works, see if it gets product market fit, and move on and move on and move on. That did not work out. It's much harder to do in reality, especially
did you go through that loop? Did you build something and then we're like, no, let's trash it? Or did you just stop before you even executed that strategy?
Before executing. So we looked at a bunch of different ideas, and then we chose this idea and committed it. And then maybe 45 or 60 days in, we were like, we're not doing anything else. This is it. We've put a lot of time in. This is our big bet. If we stick with it for the next year, I think we have a good chance of making it. So here is my version. Let me describe my experience with product market fit at CartHook. When I knew that there was something really, really there, early on, before you were able to sign up on your own, you had to sign up for a demo. And so at CartHook, I would do the demos myself. And over like a week or two span, the demos just changed in nature completely. And it went from, here's this product, do you want to buy it, to people just losing their minds on a demo. Just, I cannot believe what you built. It was like repeated over and over.
God, that feels good.
Oh my God, it felt so good. I remember one person specifically said, can you hold on? I need to call my friend. He needs to come to this call right now so he can see this. And I was like, oh, I think we have something.
We got it, baby. Yeah. We got it.
Yes, we have something that people really, really, really want. So I was on the lookout for a similar type of experience, but Rosie is self-serve. So there, it's not the same engagement in a demo. But here's when I knew. We have events piped into Slack. We have this one channel called, like, I don't know, Rosie notifications, whatever it is.
It's very creative, yeah.
Very creative. It shows signups, and it shows the first call.
Okay.
And then it shows credit card. So over the
because it's full telephony. They're like, your customers are taking phone calls. So that's what you mean by first call.
Yes. Now, the first call is always a test call from them. Right? Makes sense. I mean, in our onboarding, we could talk about onboarding. In our onboarding, a key step in the onboarding is, here's your phone number. Give it a try. And then if you're happy with it, go to this next step. So this will loop back around to the trials and the changes we made there. But after we made the changes, I would see the same pattern repeating. I would see sign up 9:04 a.m. First phone call 9:08 a.m. In my mind, I'm like, it took them 4 minutes, and they have a voice agent up and running. That has to impress.
Pretty good.
Right? And then 9:12, another few minutes later, put the credit card on file. So why would you put your credit card on file voluntarily after you called an AI voice agent, unless you were like, oh, this is it?
Yep.
I found what I'm looking for. And so that little pattern kept repeating. And I basically told the team, we got it. We're there. People are putting in their credit cards voluntarily after a test call. This is now just a matter of time before they convert, because they're done. In their minds, they have found what they're looking for.
Right.
And so the promise that we made in the ad on Instagram has just been fulfilled. And they took action themselves. They pulled out their credit card and they put it on file when they didn't need to. And we told them, this is optional. You do not need to put your credit card.
Because there's a certain amount of usage they can do without putting the card on file.
Yes, that's right.
And they looked at it and they said, I don't want to remember to come back and put my card on file because I don't want this to go away.
That's right. Our messaging in the credit card is, avoid interruptions. Put your credit card on file.
Yeah.
Yes. And so now,
before you found product market fit, was that loop much longer, or did it never close? Was it just like sign up and then maybe a first call, but never like a credit card? Or did it just take 7 days?
Okay, so this leads into the time-based trial versus usage-based trial.
Okay.
So I had a conversation with our friend Justin McGill, who was very successful with an AI product called Content at Scale. It now has a different name. And I remember talking to him, and he said, look, I tried everything. The only thing that worked really well, and what worked better than everything else, is 7-day trial with a credit card required. Okay. That works best. And I said, you know what? That's a good starting point. I like the idea of requiring a credit card because it shows real willingness. He's got some data. It's as good of a starting point as any. Why start with 30 days when you can start with 7? Is right. What everyone says. Okay. So when we first launched, we had a 7-day trial with a credit card required, and everybody converted. And I was like, we are geniuses. and product
And
market
then
fit has arrived. Yes. And then what do? You look under the, a little bit under the hood, and you look at the usage, and you go, oh my God, no one's using the product.
Right.
And we are building our house on sand.
Yes.
And
so we know, that's not a good strategy.
Not a good strategy. So even though the very first month, I think September, October, our revenue just started going straight up.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that there was a bad idea,
right,
to grow based on that. So I said, we're going to do the opposite. That's one extreme. 7 days credit card required. We're going to do the opposite. We're going to take as much time as you want. No credit card required. We're going to give you 50 minutes of usage time.
Okay.
So the most passive version of the free trial. And what that did is it totally screwed up our growth for like 3 weeks. So we had to just kind of just get through those 3 weeks of no growth compared to consistent growth on the 7 days.
Mm-hmm. Which was a facade in the first place. Exactly. But still, the number goes down and you feel real bad.
You feel bad. That's right. So our like profit graphs are like up, flat, and then the next month up. So that's when I knew that we had that first inkling of product market fit, because we had built it to the point where people were signing up on their own, not talking to us. They don't need to put their credit card on file. And then we built the onboarding in such a way that allowed them to test it very quickly. And then they put their card on file. And then 3 or 4 weeks later, we didn't know how long it would take. Mm-hmm. And at some point we were like, you know what? Is just like 50 minutes, 25 minutes. That's actually the same thing. So make it 25 minutes. And then all of a sudden people started converting like 2-3 days later. But it was their choice. They were putting the card on file. They were using the minutes. And because of that, our churn is like super small. And everyone I talk to is like, oh, the issue with AI apps is the churn. And our churn is very, very healthy because 100% of our users are fully activated and using the product.
And they put their freaking phone number out to the public and it's powered by y'all and they're not going to switch, you know? Yeah. Like at that point, they're getting, it's just very sticky, I would have to imagine. It's like, you know, switching the domain over and giving someone else all your DNS. It's like, do I really want to switch at this point?
It's almost that. And I wouldn't be surprised if we end up in that position a year from today, because right now we give them a phone number and they forward their existing phone number.
Their public one to an internal one.
Because a lot of people have, the phone numbers printed on their trucks.
Sure.
And on their business cards, on their websites. Some people switch right away. Most people are forwarding their calls. And that's actually the single biggest friction to our growth, is that call forwarding issue.
So what happens, you changed like the billing model, but what did you change in the product? Because, at first people were signing up and paying and not using it. Then they were signing up and using it. And yes, the billing model at the front door is different. What did you change in the product to get people to actually start using the thing?
Okay. So this is the Hourglass process.
God, we're just going to brand. Look at this. We're just, yeah, this is awesome.
This is professional.
Yeah, come on.
Okay. I'm going to try. The reason I call it an hourglass, because it helps me visualize. Hopefully it helps other people visualize.
Okay.
We started off very wide, the top of the hourglass. We looked at the competitors and we said, here is our guess at the feature set required to compete. And so what that created was a pretty wide set of features. Mm-hmm. The product was very young. All those features were very thin. Okay. You could say we have this feature, but it didn't have any options. You couldn't really do anything with it. But we wanted it on the marketing site to say, we do all this stuff because we want to be competitive.
Check mark. Yeah, yes. Put a check mark next to it. Give the people an idea, just a handful of what those features might be.
Call transfers. Okay. Message taking. Right. So if you call and the AI doesn't provide you with the information you need and you want to talk to someone in the office, you can transfer. The AI says, sure, I'll transfer to the office. Right. Think about what that looks like in software. It's a feature. It's got a whole bunch of options and which phone number at what time and this and schedules.
Right.
Okay. So we just had the most basic version of it. And we had the most basic version of all of these things. Very, very wide. We get people into the product by sending cold email.
Really?
Yes, we fire up cold email. We spend 300-400, emails a day. And that is not a good channel for us, but it is just brute force to just get 20 people who are interested. So we brought those people in. This is like August-ish. And what they did is they identified the most important features. The features that were actually fundamental to getting value. Mm-hmm. And what we then did, once we understood the actual feature set required to generate value, is we just removed all the other features.
Interesting.
Just remove them. Like you just can't see them in the app. And so now we're shrinking into the more narrow part of the hourglass. Once we nailed those features and we knew people get value from this, they are paying us for this and they are using it, we called that, bang, our base plan.
Okay.
So if you go on our site right now, the base plan, it's those features. Then what we started to do is we started to take the features that we hid and we started to slowly reveal them, but in conversation. So when we talk to someone and they would say, I would love call transfers, man, that's what I really need. We would say, we actually have that feature. It's not that fully built out. Would you like to be a beta user? And then we would literally just give them the URL that we had hidden. Okay. Yes. So then what we started to do is work with users on those features and started to understand, you know what those are? Those are the premium features. That's all. And so we built and reintroduced those premium features with the help of users so that we knew what is actually necessary beyond the super basic functionality that we had.
Okay, so I've got it pulled up right here. Professional, $49 a month. You've got minutes, message taking with custom questions, smart spam detection, and bilingual agent, English and Spanish. Very cool, very smart. So that's the professional, that's the base plan.
Base plan. What the base plan is, in effect, is it is a message taking service.
Which is better than an expensive outsourced human nighttime call service that knows nothing about your business and frustrates me as a user to no end.
That's right. That is more what we are competing with in the more premium tiers. What we're competing with at the base plan is your voicemail.
Okay.
Your voicemail has a horrible conversion rate. From call to message that's valuable to the business, terrible conversion rate.
So then we move up to scale and we add on appointment links and call transfers for $99 a month and more minutes, of course.
Right. But what are those? Those are more human-like receptionist features. So what we have learned about this business is effectively that the base plan is a message taker and the more premium plans are more of a receptionist.
Okay. So then we move up to growth. So we've done $49.99 at $199, get a bunch more minutes, same stuff. And then you add on live transfers coming soon, training files, and custom agent training.
That's right.
So we add on a few specialized things at the $199 plan.
Right. Where they start to get a little less self-servey and a little bit, hey, we're special and we have all these PDFs that we would like to add into this agent's context window and we understand AI and so the process, right? Big up top, then narrow, and then wide, and then the key thing that was so exciting to kind of watch unfold was we had those premium features for about 6 weeks, but you couldn't see them. And the only way you saw them was if you pinged us and you talked to support, and we would say, yes, we'll reveal that feature for you. And what we knew along that 6 weeks is we understood how people use the product, what the base plan was, what the right pricing was, what the premium features, which premium plan a feature should live in, all that. And then somewhere around March, beginning of February, we introduced what we called the premium UI.
Okay.
So we took the features that were hidden, we revealed them in the admin, but we made sure that the user could tell what a premium feature was and what a base feature was.
So there's a little indicator that says this exists, but you don't have it.
There's like color and icons. And so you make the promise in describing the feature. And then if you want to use the feature, we shot away from any like dark patterns on like, you can set the feature up fully and then we hit save. That's when you get a card modal. Annoying. So we did it very cleanly, white hat, let's call it. And that has changed our average revenue per user by like 20% over the last 4 weeks. Right. So it's like all the features, just the basic features, call that the base plan, expand out into these premium plans, and then reveal all those features so that everyone comes in at the base plan and more people are enticed to come up into what looked like a $49 a month product. We now give them the option to get more value if you're willing to pay more with these additional features. And that has changed the math around our advertising. And now we're in hit the gas mode.
So what would you call this hourglass strategy? Because it sounds to me like some sort of discovery. I don't know if it's pricing discovery or product discovery, but it's some way that like you went to the market with a bunch of ideas and the market said these two or these three.
Yeah.
But then you didn't lose all the other ones. You just narrowed down scope and focused, and then you brought back the other ones later. So like if you had to give your Hourglass strategy a subhead, like what's the H2? How do you describe this strategy?
It's like feature set development, something around that. I mean, remember, these are all lies. These are lessons in hindsight. This is not me being a genius in August and saying this is exactly how things will unfold.
Of course, yeah.
Right. This is
an emergent property that you have discovered.
Yes.
Which is what makes it so valuable.
Right. And I think maybe that is my favorite part of the job. I am a shameful ideas guy, but if you have good ideas, then okay, then it's fine. And so I think that guiding that process from being one step removed from talking to customers every day and creating content every day and kind of sitting back and thinking was the most valuable contribution that I could have made over the last few months. By just noticing and just admitting, oh, that's actually not necessary. And only people using this. And this looks great, but it's not good for us to build this way because everyone's converting, but they're not actually using. So I don't know what that is. Maybe
I don't either, but you gotta write it because this is good. This is a good framework. We like a framework, especially one that has a name, especially one that has a visual too. So you gotta write this.
If anyone can come up with a better description than Hourglass, please let me know. Because I think I don't know. I called it barbell. I wasn't sure. I didn't know what to call it. I'm on Hourglass. If anyone has a better suggestion, please hit me up. Because we need to brand this. You know, it needs to be.
Yeah, and I've had expand and contract for certain things in my life, but this is a 3-step. Like you start expand, then you contract. But then you go expand again, so it's not quite as pithy to say.
Accordion for a bit, but that I don't know if anyone knows.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably not going to hit the youths with accordion. Yeah, I don't think they'll get that one.
Yes.
I want to hear. So, how much time do you have?
I
still have time.
Yes.
Yep. I want to hear. I want to hear about this ad strategy. Well, actually, first, I feel like you are in the bootstrapper circles, but you're not afflicted with the same problems as bootstrappers, which is shame around like selling. And so I want to hear your cold outreach strategy, because I think most bootstrappers are like, I can't send emails to people. Can you imagine? And then I want to hear your paid ads strategy, because did you say that's the thing that's like really starting to take off?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to hear about both of those strategies from a non-mired in the bootstrap person. But before we do that, this podcast is brought to you by Laravel Cloud, the best way to ship and scale Laravel applications. You can find that at cloud.laravel.com. Thank you to Laravel for sponsoring the show. And this show is sponsored by Stream at getstream.io. Stream, scalable APIs for chat, video, voice, feeds, and moderation at getstream.io. So thank you to Laravel and Stream for sponsoring the show.
Okay. I want to make comments about the sponsors, but we're going to keep going.
We'll keep going. We can do it at the end. We can do an errata at the end. Let's keep going.
So the bootstrap ideology issue is, I've put that in my rearview mirror. I got over it a long time ago. I hope people... I mean, they seem to be less ideological now than they were 5 years ago.
That's part of what made y'all's show so great, was y'all had different ideologies, which is, I love listening to that.
Yes, I like ideology. I think it's important. But my guiding ideology is after-tax money in my personal bank account. That is my actual ideology, and that is the God that I pray to. Okay, and
that is not the God I pray to, but I do like that ideology. Just for the record, just for the record to be clear. Yes. Directionally correct.
How you get there is less ideological, and so yes, I think people should do whatever they need to do, whatever they want to do, in order to increase the after-tax money in their personal bank account. I happen to raise money for Rally. And that's just a different way to go in business. It's just a different approach. And so
you mentioned earlier 18 million. Is that what you raised for Rally? And if you're not able to be public about anything, that's fine. But you said earlier 18
most
million.
of the stuff is public because it needs to be filed. But yes, we've raised 18 million for
Okay.
Rally, and Rosie is a pivot out of Rally.
Okay. And have you been public / do you want to be about where you were in your runway when you pivoted to Rosie?
No, I've just said several $1 million.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Carry on.
Right. So we basically had enough runway for, I don't know, call it 18 months or something.
Okay.
So a very critical part of my job is to look at a spreadsheet and understand that I am better off spending money on customer acquisition than not.
Okay.
It is literally mathematically worse off to be very tight on customer acquisition because the majority of the money spent is on people and software.
Okay.
And so to add on a little bit of expenses, that makes a big difference in your revenue growth. That makes a big difference in your burn and your runway. It is like mathematically better to spend money on customer acquisition. So I have like internalized this. I come from the Bootstrap world where it was very, how do I make something with very little?
Right.
And then I went toward like partnerships and that type of thing that don't cost money. In this case, it was like, well, you need to spend the money. So let's just hire a great consultant and fire up the cold email. Because that is the simplest way to go from where we are today to making 500 people a day aware of our software. Just the most straightforward way. And so that's what we did. We hired Brian Shackman, who runs a service for, he runs his own SaaS, but he also on the side runs a service for cold email.
Okay.
And cold email these days is a bit of a science. The domain and the domain warming and the inbox warming and like it's intense. At least there's great software to make it work. But that's not enough. You do want someone who knows what they're doing with it. Otherwise, you will just fall into every single possible trap.
And burn your domain forever.
Yes. And all those things. So that is what I saw as the most straightforward way to make 500 people aware of us every day. And two, if it worked, a very easy channel to just hit the gas on and double and double and double.
Totally.
It did not end up working.
Okay.
Maybe we'll try again in the future. Maybe it'll work better now. But when we did, it didn't quite work. It did the job at getting enough people in our inbox and in our funnel to just learn the product better.
But long-term, the economics were just not there.
Yeah, that's right. The customer growth, it just wasn't there. But it did its job. And so it gave us that first cohort of like 20-ish users, and it just helped us talk to people and understand what they were saying. And I mean, this was a new business. I'm barely learning the lingo around telephony and around phone and all this stuff. I come from a small business universe and like my family business. So I'm in touch with it. It's not like I'm completely out of touch with it, but I still didn't know what we were doing. So the cold email strategy was relatively blunt for us. How do we just get people into our funnel? There isn't that much more to say about that other than it worked. We probably spent, I don't know, $25,000 over the span of like 2-3 months and just got people
to get 20 people.
Yeah.
Yikes.
To get 20 actual users. We talked to a lot of people and dozens of people, but the actual value of it was this first cohort of people that actually told us what they needed.
And did your guy do all the lead lists? Like, did he find all of that, or is that something you had to do?
No, he did everything.
Okay. That's cool. That's great.
It was great. And it did exactly what it needed to do. And it accelerated our learning, which makes the $25,000 in retrospect relatively meaningless if it saved us 3 months.
Yeah, big time. 3 months of salary and
that's right.
Infrastructure,
salaries and everything.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so that worked in a way, but wasn't like the thing you needed. So then you moved on to ads.
Yes. And my hunch was that we are in B2B, but this should be marketed a little bit like B2C.
Okay.
And coming from the Shopify and e-commerce universe, I really admire the advertising and marketing of these direct-to-consumer companies.
Yeah.
They're so good at making me want. This is so embarrassing. I don't even know if I want to do this.
What is that? Yeah, of course. It's great content. What is it?
I can't believe I just did. I'm so embarrassed. These are the squeezy things you put in your cheek to bite down and build up your muscles in your jaw. Okay?
Oh, wow. You're going for Ultra Chat.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. God damn it. That's so embarrassing.
Hell yeah.
It's good. It's honest. Okay?
Yes. It's good content.
Here's the thing. These
You're going for Greco-Roman. God.
These marketers are so good that they convinced a 45-year-old married dad of 3, that he needs his jaw more defined. Okay? God damn it. Aaron, Okay, we're going to move forward. We're just going to take the lesson out of it. Okay. So what
It's fantastic.
I
You look great, so it's working. Congrats. Yeah.
There we go.
Huge job. Amazing.
Okay. So I found an advertising company that did ads for direct-to-consumer companies and did ads in such a way that the goal was that the ad looked and felt native to the platform. It looked like user-generated content. It looked natural as opposed to a polished, perfect advertisement that's 30 seconds exactly. It was, a guy at his desk saying, I got sick of showing up on Monday and checking my voicemail and everyone just hung up. I knew how much money I was losing. So I got Rosie AI, and now she answers my phone and takes my messages and I never miss a call. And then he'll listen to it. Oh my God, she sounds so human. I love it. Go to Rosie AI to start your free trial. Okay.
And they shot the videos. They did all of that?
They do all of it. So we do an interview. I explain to them the product and the benefits and the features and all that stuff. And then they come up with scripts and I make adjustments to the script. And they're very scientific. This is our what's it called? Hook. The first 10 seconds. And we'll try these 3. And this is the body. And then this is the conclusion/offer. And then let's mix and match all 3. And let's see which one works. And then let's get a different creator and see if that works better. And they have just been optimizing this thing for months. And it is working so well. It's awesome.
What platforms? Instagram, TikTok?
So Meta as an umbrella for Facebook, where a lot of our ICP lives, and Instagram. And then Google, which is YouTube, and then some YouTube like video, and then also YouTube has some static placement also.
Okay.
So those 2
Man. And so they found one or a few that worked, and then Slack just started popping off. The channel just started blowing up.
Absolutely blown up. And then we were like, okay, what happens if we spend $100 a day, right? What happens if we spend $300 a day? So like 9 or 10 grand a month. What happens if we spend $1,000 a day? What does it look like then? What happens if we spend $2,000 a day? We were like just testing, and the ratio just stayed consistent.
It held?
It just held. And then a few weeks ago,
you got a money printer.
We got a money printer. That's right.
Oh, man.
So one of the guys from the advertising company comes up to me, and this is partly why I love them. First of all, I met this guy who runs the advertising company. He's like, I'm going to be in Chicago for a conference. You want to have lunch? We have lunch. And I'm like, okay, I need to understand. How old are you? He was like, I am a sophomore at Stanford.
Stop.
And I'm in between classes right now running this business. And I was like, damn, kid. Damn.
What?
Yep. Awesome.
The CEO's at a conference in Chicago. You go to lunch with him, and
young kid.
He's a sophomore.
He's a sophomore at Stanford. Yeah. His name's Hamza. He runs a company called Newform.ai. These guys are very smart. I was attracted to them by their content. I thought,
Jordan, what are we doing?
I don't know. I don't like it. I need more after-tax money in my personal bank account. Okay, that's what I'm doing.
Oh man!
So he comes up.
Say the name of the agency again.
Newform.ai. They're great. They are not cheap, but this is what I should be doing. And one of the guy who runs my account comes up to me and is like, Jordan, what do we need to do to get you to 10K a day?
Oh, brother.
And I'm like, okay. That's ridiculous because that's $300,000 a month. And what are you talking about? And what it did is it challenged me. It just said, why not, dude? Why not? And so I went to my spreadsheet, and let me be clear, we are not spending $10,000 a day. But it challenged me to explore what the limits are, as opposed to thinking like a bootstrapper that maybe I thought 5 years ago and thought, I can't spend more than $1,000 a day. It's crazy. So now all of a sudden we find ourselves in this very interesting position where we're like, I guess what we need to do is find where the diminishing line is.
Right.
And we're pushing pretty hard this month. So we might find the diminishing line. But while we explore that, it's time to get organic content going, which is why I started investing in organic, in SEO a month ago, and then the podcast and everything else, because we are going to find the diminishing line. Sure. But we don't want to be entirely reliant on ads forever, right? 12 months from today, I would like ads to be a minority of our lead flow. Mm-hmm. But for right now, it's really an interesting challenge of like, hey, you built a system for self-serve software that allows a painting company, a dude in a truck, to onboard and have a voice AI answering their phone in under 10 minutes. And so that is the advantage to lean into, because our competitors right now are like, sign up for a demo and talk to us. Look at all the models that we have and all this power. And we're like,
the models.
absolutely.
They don't freaking
No
care
one
about
knows.
the models.
Exactly. No one cares. Exactly right. So, I know it's an interesting kind of spot and problem. And we're not at the promised land yet. We're not profitable, but we understand, we have an interesting year to go through to figure out where these limits are and how much we should invest in each thing. And how do we keep track of cash, and how do we lower our margin, because cost of goods sold in AI voice is a challenge these days. It's still expensive.
I guess you actually have some cogs there, huh?
You have some cogs. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting problem.
Wow.
So here we are. So now, right, like what an egotistical animal I am, that now that everything's working and humming, I'm like, you know what I should do? I should go talk about it. Let me go start a podcast. Yes.
Oh, dude, this is amazing. This new form, and the idea of going to a DTC advertising company for your, it is B2B, but it's kind of prosumer, because I bet a lot of them are like solo operators or like small shops or something.
Like 1 to 3 person companies.
Yeah. The idea to go to them, because all the logos on their homepage are all DTC. It's all Blue Chew, Kajabi, Prisma. It's like all these things that you've heard of.
Yes,
this is great. This is genius. I love this. And you got a money machine. You put some in at the top and more comes out at the bottom. That is the dream.
It is. I have been pursuing it for years, and I could not get it. Rally just didn't work that way. Rally was like, doesn't matter what you spend, you need to go meet these people at conferences, and get into their 3-month sales process and convince.
And then their 18-month migration.
Right. So a lot of Rosie's attributes are directly an overreaction to the pain from Rally. Like, no enterprise, self-serve, not complicated, no platform to rely on. Like, all these things are like, maybe I'm making a mistake by just overreacting in all these different ways, but maybe it adds up to just being a better type of product to sell.
Well, it sounds like it's working. Are you getting... Steve and I have talked about being able to buy ads. I don't think we would do, video ads like this, but we've talked about being able to buy ads, and like the ancillary benefits of it is you're spending a ton of money. So then you get all these credit card, like you get either cash back or you can fly first class anywhere you want to go. And I'm like, I'm flying first class to Boise just to hang out with Steve if we're, if we're buying ads. So are you playing that game too with trying to optimize that part of the spend?
I am. And that is like a dark corner of the venture capital world, that all these founders spend their company money and they collect the points
personally benefit
because it's on your card with your name, because it shouldn't be on someone else's card at the company. You need to take responsibility. But the result is a tremendous number of credit card points. And if you use Chase, you will get 3x when you spend money on online ads.
Good Lord.
Yes. So there's a limit on that. Let's say it's only 450,000 for the year or something.
I'm okay with that limit.
Yeah, same.
That's fine. That's fine with me.
You want to hear
so you could get into a tail wagging the dog situation there pretty easily.
Well, look, that's not like any reason to change behavior in any way.
Yeah.
But we were using the advertising company. They were buying the ads, and then we were reimbursing them. And at some point, I was like, okay, so why don't we just put that on our card?
Yeah, totally.
That is Boy Scout compared to someone I used to know who ran a company that bought tickets for like Broadway shows. That's what the company did. But the way the company actually worked is that the company would buy the ticket and then resell it to the person buying it on the marketplace. So this company was very big and very successful, and all of the volume went through the founder's credit card. Millions and millions of points. Yep. So whatever I got going doesn't hold a candle to that operation. That was a full-fledged... That was a hack.
Oh, man. Sometime when we're not recording, I want to hear more about the dark sides of VC that you have seen. I would love to hear that. I'm sure you've seen some stuff.
Yeah. Everyone knows the dark side of VC. You're using other people's money to benefit yourself, but it doesn't really work unless you benefit others. It is a capitalist alignment. It's beautiful, actually.
Mm-hmm. It's pure capitalism.
It's pure capitalism. There is one problem, and that is your liquidation preference. That's your problem. You got. I need to sell for more than $18 million bucks before I see a dollar.
Right.
That's my problem.
18 million is a lot of.
It's a lot of millions.
It's a big number. It's a big number.
Right. Relatively speaking, a big number.
Wow. Fascinating, man. This is great. This is a look into, Ian and I are both, I think Ian's more business dad, but I'm still very much in like the bootstrapper mentality, because Steve and I haven't raised any money. And hearing all of these, like, I don't know if it's pejorative to call them proper business, pejorative to myself. This is like proper business stuff.
Yeah.
Like, let's pay money to find a channel and then pay more money. That seems obvious.
There's a spectrum, and I talk to people who are, I'll go to March Capital. That's our lead investor. I'll go to their conference in LA a few weeks ago. And then I come across people and I'm like, oh my God, I am playing around with toys over here in the corner compared to what these other people are doing.
They pat you on the head and say adorable
that's right.
business.
And maybe next year you'll be on stage and you can talk about what you're doing when it's actually interesting. So I think it's just a spectrum. It's good to be exposed to all of it. Aaron, what is your business model?
Jordan, that's a good question. So let me. I do want all of your thoughts. You've listened, you've followed. I do want all of your thoughts. So here's our current business model. We make educational material and we sell it. Mm-hmm. That's it. That is the current business
partnership
model.
You and Steve?
Me and Steve, yeah.
Okay.
So Steve and I own the business. We're full 50-50 partners. We make educational content and sell it. That's it.
Cool.
So that is like, we can talk about it for an hour, but that is the business model.
Yeah.
Individuals and sometimes companies give us US dollars and we give them basically video courses.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
I remember when you were transitioning out of a full-time role. And
I was transitioned. You're kind, but I was transitioned out of a full-time role. That was very deft of you.
I don't necessarily see that. I think when people quit their job, it's a congratulations is in order.
Mm-hmm.
I think when people get fired from their job, you just have to hold off on the congratulations for about 6 months, or because you can't say congrats right when someone gets fired because that sucks.
Right?
No. But maybe 6 months or a year later, you're like, wasn't that a good thing? It was certainly a good thing. But I remember I reached out to you, and it's almost like my capitalist instincts kicked in. I saw you as undervalued. I was like, oh my God, this guy's gonna make $1 million a year very, very soon because of the quality of both the content, the education, and most importantly, the strength of the relationship with the audience. So it makes sense that is your business model now. And I still firmly think you're going to do incredibly well with it. Do you want to expand beyond education? Almost like the way Adam Wathan has gone into product in that way. Brian also toward that. Mm-hmm. Education feels like a very several steps up the value ladder in terms of when you love me and you want to pay a larger amount. That's when you go toward this educational content. So are you thinking about filling in the other steps in the ladder?
Yes. So that's first of all, thank you. That's very kind of you to say that. But yes, that is the existing business model, is sell what we believe are extremely high quality courses to people that know, like, and trust us. That has been very good. I mean, the first year in business, we've made enough money, which is like, that's kind of hard to do. So
no joke.
We did it. We did it. And now I think, so if there is like a spiritually aligned business, I think you might have heard of this one because it's in the AI space. It's Every. Have you heard of Dan Shipper and Every?
Yeah.
So they've got Lex.page, they've got Sparkle, they've got a couple of products, but then they have like their blog and they've got like a podcast, their whole thing. So that is one that is close. And then I think to some extent Tailwind is close, but slightly different. And so what I am seeing for our business is we have distribution, which, as you know, is incredibly hard to come by.
Yes.
Right? And so we have it. We have distribution. We have people that trust us, and I take that very seriously. And so then the question becomes like, what else, like where else is the value and what else can we offer? So I think you're correct to point out that education is pretty far up the chain of like, they really know me, and so they're willing to spend $200, $300 on a course.
Yep.
How do we move down? So things that we are exploring actively right now. One is we are redoing, this is still education, but we're redoing screencasting.com to offer a much broader spectrum of courses. So I'm doing the main one. Steve is doing Premiere. We hired a guy to do Final Cut Pro. We hired somebody to do DaVinci, OBS. So like we've hired on a contract basis, we've hired a bunch of people to make a bunch of courses on screencasting. And so part of the play there is, can we expand to a sort of like truly a studio? We're called Try Hard Studios. Can we expand to like a studio model where we've got a cast of characters that are all teaching this one specific thing? And I think we can. And that's an experiment that we'll see hopefully come to fruition this month. I think another question on the education, and then there are products. Another question on the education is, I am given to wanting to educate people who are intermediates and like level them up into being advanced. Like I want to take people that want to learn and want to know things, and I want to enrich and edify their lives by saying, hey, here's all the hard stuff. Like, look how cool this is. Yes. Yeah. I love that. Everything is shaped like a pyramid, and the intermediates are way up here in the pyramid, right? Yeah. And so there are just fewer of them.
Yes.
And so our next pure database education experiment is, what if we did an intro? Like, what if we just taught an intro to SQL course? Because there are tons of those people.
That's right. It's very.
And so can we sell it for less? And like, then is the burden of knowing me also quite lower, right? Okay. And then I'll hit you with one more, and then we'll get a smattering. Yeah. So outside of pure video education, Steve and I talk a lot about this idea of pointing many experiments or many projects or many ideas in the same direction. And so our internal shorthand is, are the vectors aligned on that? So like, if you're imagining thrust vectors, we are a spaceship. Are all the vectors like pointing the same way such that we're making progress? Great, right? We love
better
it.
off.
It's great. Yeah. And so that doesn't, of course, mean that we always have to do video courses. That may mean there are products available in the video space that like, our videos will help the product, our product will help the videos, our content helps all of it, and that can push us to the right direction. And so I think as we have been running this business for a year now, I mean, last week, I guess, as we've been running it for a year, some product ideas are starting to emerge that are directionally appropriate for what we're already doing. It's not just like, hey, let's burn down all this goodwill we have, or just not even burn it, just like leave it aside and try to build something crazy that doesn't apply to anything. And so those are kind of, we've got the studio, we've got the down market, and we've got the forthcoming products in the same space. So take your pick.
Very interesting. I like what happens to all of us as we get further into business, and a lot of these things that you really can't think about too much when you start. You do start to digest and be thoughtful about your effort. What I heard in there, by far the most important thing was hiring someone else to do a course, because that begins the journey toward making you less necessary and less critical. And I think that's where we want to go. And you can be, Jason Fried is not necessary in his business at all. What he's doing right now is because he wants to. And I think the answer is not get out of your business so you can go sit on a beach and do absolutely nothing.
Don't want to do that.
Right, the goal is do what you want to do. And in order to do that, you do need to make yourself less critical. And so you can rise up toward the things that you love the most, right? I think it's zone of genius would be the term. So I think it's great. All within a year, you're identifying these vectors and where to put effort. and
Mm-hmm.
starting to identify, hey, what does it mean to be a studio, to go beyond me doing everything and selling everything? So it feels like you're on the evolutionary path. You are going exactly
Mm-hmm.
where the business needs to go. Yeah, the distribution and making sure that you use that to the fullest extent possible,
Mm-hmm.
and not start from scratch unless you become really good at building new audiences. Yeah, so I guess that transition toward the lower part of the pyramid,
Right.
uh,
Tricky.
it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
The nice thing is that you do have the next step up ready
Right.
for them.
Yeah, and that's something like that's something that like we think about a lot, is kind of like the portfolio thing. And so, you know, you'll hear Rob, and I think correctly, Rob Walling will correctly say like, don't do 12 startups in 12 months. And it's like, okay, yeah, you know, that's fine. And then you hear other people say like, just throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. And it's like, I don't know, there's got to be somewhere in the middle. And I think some of that comes down to personality, right? So I think like Matt Winsing, whom we both know and love, is like, I am going to just keep going on this one idea and I'm going to make it work. And then Peter Levels is like, haha, I made a VR flying game and also, you know, Nomad List. It's like, what's going on?
Yes.
But I think for Steve and I, we're trying to really think about the cohesiveness of the portfolio. And we want like every product to work well with other products. And so having an intro to SQL at 39 or 49 is good, because then they can do mastering Postgres after that. Or somebody can stumble on mastering Postgres and say, I don't even know what Postgres is. Oh, these guys have intro to SQL. Let me do that one.
Yep.
And the same idea goes with the screencasting portfolio, which is like, you take the how to screencast course. And then once you're done, you gotta get better at your editing tool of choice. And turns out you don't have to go anywhere. We've got courses for that. We've got 6 different courses on editors. And so instead of like, instead of trying 12 different things, we're trying to do portfolios of related things that feed on each other.
Right. Even if an individual product inside of that portfolio isn't a standout hit, it contributes.
Yes.
And then it makes it more likely that when there is a hit, it also contributes to the larger pie in general.
Yes.
Yeah, this reminds me of an experience that we are having right now since launching the premium UI and understanding how quickly people upgrade. What it's making me actually think is I should probably lower the price on the base plan. Because the more people that come in at the entry point, now that we feel confident in upselling them and them upgrading, not that different from yours, right? You should not do a AppSumo deal with your core screencasting.com.
Correct.
But you can do it with your $39 or $29 course on introductory SQL.
Right.
Because that starts to become a way to kind of grow your leads, which is what I'm identifying as our base plan. It's actually just growing our leads. When our investors challenge me and they say, what about the enterprise? What's going on up there? I say, well, look, there's different forms of enterprise. We don't want it. American Airlines and like Wells Fargo Bank, all of those miserable phone systems are all going to get replaced with AI. Great opportunity. I want nothing to do with it. No. There's a different form of enterprise, which is we're a franchise and we have 800 locations. So we need 800 Rosie accounts. Can you help? So I also don't love the idea of going and hiring an AE and doing the sales process in that way. What we're seeing in our introductory base plan is that the individual franchise location signs up for that. And then we form a relationship with them and we identify as soon as they come in, oh, that's different potential than the others because it's attached to a network of 800 locations.
Right.
And you can't do that. You won't see that opportunity if it's too hard for them to get in. And so I think what you're experiencing right now is you do have some of the best people as customers. They're influential. Their word of mouth has more strength than the beginners, all that. But if you're missing out on that bottom of the pyramid, you are not only missing out on this revenue that moves up your ladder, you're just missing out on opportunities that you just would not have come across. You just
Right.
didn't know about. Yep.
Yeah. So in a sense, with your base plan, people are paying you to join the upsell funnel.
Yes.
Which is pretty great.
Yes. What they're really doing mathematically is they're helping us recover our ad spend, our CAC,
Mm-hmm.
to provide us with more opportunities that might be, significantly higher than the average revenue per user.
Mm-hmm.
So if we spend, $50,000 in a month and it brings in 15K in MRR, that's great. But in the future, that MRR should expand beyond what it looked like in month 1 or 2 because of the upgrade path. So your business seems not that dissimilar.
Okay, so let me throw this one at you. We, in my opinion, my humble opinion, we've done the hard part. we've got distribution. We've got these flagship intermediate courses that are like incredibly hard to produce because it's just a freaking slog. And so we've done the hard part, and I think I think what I am learning now is we need to do some business. It's business time. And so what I spent last week doing, in addition to recording videos, what I spent last week doing was exploring checkouts, which I know you're going to start twitching, but I explored all the checkouts and they all suck.
Okay. Why are you exploring checkouts?
So let me tell you.
Yeah.
So, we are in this process of editing all these screencasting videos. So we're going to have a bunch of different SKUs on screencasting.com. Okay. Historically, we've had a SQLite course, single SKU, mastering Postgres, single SKU. We did do a guest course with an instructor on Ruby on Rails plus SQLite. And at that point, it was like, oh, okay, we got to get a bundle going. Obviously.
Yeah.
And so we kludged together a bundle on our payment provider, and it was like, it worked. But we noticed, or we saw, bundle pricing works. We're discovering things from first principles here, but we're getting there. Yep. Bundle pricing works. Now we're in this place where it's like, all right, screencasting.com is going to have maybe 6-7 different courses. Also, it's going to have digital downloads. It's going to have assets so you can hey, I want to buy a plugin for Final Cut Pro that does this thing. And so we're at this point where we're going to have, 15, 20 products on screencasting.com.
Yep. And
we need to be intelligent about cross-sells, upsells, downsells, bundles, the whole thing. Because what I don't want to do is pour a bunch of people into the top of the funnel when the funnel is just completely leaky and totally unoptimized, right? And so we were going from click a button and you go to a hosted checkout with one product to click a button, you land on an interstitial, hey, you might like these products too. And by the way, hey, we're 20% off right now.
Right, get them both. You'll need them.
Get them both. And then you're redirected onto the checkout. And so, we're trying to figure out the engineering behind getting that to work. And Jordan, it's bleak.
It's still bleak. Still bleak. It's crazy. It's still bleak.
Awful.
Yep.
So I explored headless Shopify. I know that those are two words you don't want to hear. I explored Shopify headless. By the way,
I see that as an oxymoron, but continue.
By the way, whoever's running naming at Shopify, I don't know what hydrogen and oxygen are. You're in your docs and you're like, well, if you're using oxygen, well, if you're using hydrogen, I'm like, give it a name. I don't know what that means.
At least make it a hyperlink,
Yeah, I know that it's like a play on liquid, but it doesn't mean anything to me. So I explored Shopify headless, sucked. Samcart sucked. Bolt, couldn't even get anywhere with it.
No.
Had to have a call with somebody, and I went in there and there's no product. I can't even add a product.
Yeah,
sucks.
Yeah, it's
checkout page. I think it's just checkoutpage.com or something like that. Tried that. The very first screen that I got to on checkout page was a video from the founder saying, hey, here at checkout page, we're not, you don't actually add a product. We don't have the concept of products. You just build checkout pages. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work for me. I've got an inventory of products and I want you to figure out how to upsell them based on what the customer is buying.
Yeah.
So it's super bleak. And you know what we did? We went down the Stripe, the raw Stripe. And so we're just going to build it all ourselves, which sucks.
It's tough. I wish I could even put you in the right direction because Samcart comes close.
It does. It comes
It
close.
comes close.
It's ugly.
It's for marketers. They're actually great marketers to pay attention to.
I noticed that. I read all the emails. They're very good.
Emails, video sales letters, retargeting. They're very, very good at it.
And they've got all the big info product people as testimonials.
Right, because all the big info product people are not technical. And so Samco is built for them.
And all they care about is like funnels. And that's where I need to get, because I'm on the wrong side of the spectrum right now. Well, it's, depending on judgment.
You want to be proud.
I am on A side.
You want to be
I'm
proud
on A side
of your checkout page.
I do. And I want to be like, I want to be super proud of the product. Like, I don't want to just throw together, you know, some product and then do an upsell for $9.97. Like, and I need to move more towards, you know, pure capitalism, but
somewhere in between. Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think you're going to do better than Stripe, because Shopify is intended for physical products and all of the logic is for physical products, and trying to, you know, fit that square peg into a round hole around digital. And it's just, it rarely works. Yep.
Sure didn't work for us.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Yeah.
Kind of a disaster. So where we're at now is I'm building it all with Stripe primitives. And basically we've got a bunch of Stripe products, but we're not using Stripe checkout. So we've got a bunch of Stripe products in the Stripe dashboard.
Okay.
And then on our side, you know, we have a Laravel app. We're syncing them all down. So a user will click buy on a course or something. They can click add to cart, but let's just go down the buy route. They'll click buy. They'll go to an interstitial page hosted by us that knows what they already have, what they're buying, and what else is available, and what offers are, like, we've configured on the back end. And it'll say, hey, do you want to add this on for this amount, whatever? Yes. And then we redirect them basically to a hosted checkout, but it's using the Stripe payment links product instead of the hosted checkout.
Or using elements on your own page.
No. It is the checkout is actually hosted on buy.stripe.com.
Okay.
But it's not
the Stripe checkout.
It's not the customer portal. Yes. It's like, here's a payment link that I have constructed via API that has these prices and this shipping, and like, now go and check out on stripe.com.
It's annoying that you have to do that, because that's not the business that you're in.
Yes, exactly.
And I think what you're describing is learning what business you're in.
Yes.
And it's amazing that you have so much ready. You have, like you said, you have the hard part done.
Yes.
So I do think you're right to look at it and say, okay, if we have the hard part done, maybe we should stop building hard parts.
Yes, and that is exactly the conversation we had.
Great. We have a different version of the conversation. We just know more about our business now than we did in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And what I'm understanding in our business is that we are, we're an onboarding company. We are a gateway. There is an enormous amount of demand for people to solve this problem, and our job is to solve it for them in a way that they're actually going to accomplish. Mm-hmm. So whenever I go to a competitor and I'm like, you know, you get that weird feeling in your stomach, like, is this something to worry about? Are they really good? Are they gonna whoop us or whatever? And I go into their product and I see the first thing that says, which LLM do you want to use? I'm like, not a problem.
Cool. I can log off. Yep. Not my problem. Yeah.
Yes. And what we're understanding is that we are, in order to do that, what we should focus on is none of the hard parts. We've identified our hard part. It's onboarding non-technical people into an AI product and giving them the features that they need. Stop doing the hard part. Don't worry about the LLM. Basically outsource everything. You're an AI wrapper. Embrace it. Give it a big hug. You're an AI wrapper, and there's a lot of value to add in the UI layer for non-technical people.
Yes.
And just solve the problem for them. And so in much the same way where I'm like, yes, I understand the risk of us leaning on people for the transcriber and for the synthesizer and for the LLM, and I don't care at all. We're just going to lean into that risk and get the advantage for it.
So tell me this, does Rock have any problems with that? Because I feel as a developer, I'm like, there's some misplaced purity inside of me where I'm like, no, I need to teach 120 videos about Postgres because this is what the material demands if you want to be a proper user of this database. Right. And what the market is probably saying is, I want 1 hour of a crash course so I can get back to my life. And I'm trying to square that circle.
Again, if you let the key ideology guide you.
Mm.
The way Rock, with 2 kids now, since we met, he's got 2 children, he got married, and he has adopted my ideology, which is after-tax money in our personal bank accounts.
Yep.
And the way to do that is to make the company successful. And the way to do that is what the strategy dictates. Don't build stuff. Make it
Sell stuff.
Right. Make it very reliable and good. So we have a recurring experience, and this is a bit tricky. You get people coming into our product and then saying, I've tried all the others. Yours is so much better. Thank you. Feels amazing. Now, look, in reality, what we know is that when people go in that direction, you hear about it. When people go the other way and they leave you and they go to someone that they think is better, you don't hear about it. Fine. I don't care. I'll take the positive feedback. And so we are adding things to make it better. It's just that it's less of an hard engineering challenge, and it's more of like a clever engineering challenge. How do we add our own prompts and our own RAG system? And how do we make it more likely that the agent doesn't hallucinate? And how do we make it so that when she says, is there anything else I can help you with, that she doesn't say that 4 times in a conversation? That we had different versions to make it more human-like. So it's not like there aren't challenges. It's that you do have to relinquish the hard engineering challenge that you might think of yourself as trying to encounter. So you have like this bar that you want to meet around the content you create.
Yes.
I think part of why people are attracted to your content is because that bar is so high. And people are attracted to it.
I don't want to lose that. Yeah.
I don't think you need to. But maybe you can be one touch more realistic. I'm going to avoid using the word cynical with you because they're like magnets.
We don't like that, yeah.
But maybe you can look at it and say, I'm going to meet my bar. And then I'm going to strip away lessons 1, 2, and 3, or we're going to package that up for $19. Because that actually gets people the value that a lot of people need. And beyond that, they don't need.
Right.
And we can use that to subsidize our spend toward customer acquisition. And no, we're not going to make any money off that, but it puts them into our ladder. And because our bar is so high, more than usual convert to that higher tier. And so it's worth it. So what I would do if I were you is I would do what the Excel guys are doing.
Tell me.
People selling Excel courses are making millions of dollars because they're taking this little nugget that people need and they're putting it on TikTok and on Instagram and on Facebook Reels.
You think that's the move?
Yeah. Yeah. Not Excel, but take the little tiny nugget of the bottom of the pyramid. Right. The Excel course that the guy is selling is so sophisticated, I will never need it.
Sure.
But a lot of people need the most basic version, the one step up from I'm an Excel noob to now I'm proficient at something. And maybe that's what you're selling as that introductory for the bottom of the pyramid. And if you have to spend money, let's say you have to spend $5,000 a month on an agency that takes all of your content, clips it up into shorts and posts it. I mean, there's a lot of tools that do this stuff, including AI tools that you really don't even need an agency. So you can keep the bar really high and use that as your secret weapon. And your secret weapon is actually, my bar is so high that more than you would expect convert to that higher tier because of how good the quality actually is. You don't have to lower the quality. You might just need to change your assets and put them into a form.
Package
them differently and position them differently for more people to consume.
Okay, so here's what this is making me think. Okay. This is making me think that I would be, so what I'm hearing from you and Rock is your focus is on building the business. And I think that is worth saying because most engineers, their focus is on writing the code, doing cool stuff in the code,
building the product, making it amazing, reducing the number of bugs, nailing the development process,
making the queries faster. Like, we love that crap.
Yes.
Perhaps my focus has been on producing content, which I think is good, right, and noble, but my focus needs to shift on that spectrum a little bit to building the business and not lowering the bar for the content, like you said, but changing how we present it, perhaps.
Yeah. It sounds more like a packaging challenge than anything else. And you're already, when you left the job or were asked to leave the job, my assumption was that the journey that you're on right now, that you will go on, and that it will end up in the right spot. And I think that's where it's going.
That's good.
You know,
That's good.
Yeah, the right spot is, how do I add value, and then how do I expose a ridiculous number of people to that value? And if anything, that I would challenge you on is to get exposed to other people. Okay. Because right now, if you go on Twitter and you sell your thing, those are people that have been exposed to you and your quality of work, and that's why they buy. But if you want to be introduced to other people that are not in your audience, that don't understand what it takes to do what you're doing, and don't, because of that, don't have an appreciation for it, let them come in a different way.
Yeah, that's good, because the audience that I have now has taken me 10 years to build, and we gotta get new people in, and we don't have 10 years to do it.
It's almost like a top-down process. They're coming in and being exposed to your best, to your tweets, to your thinking, to your podcast, to your, like, the process of making the course.
Right.
And then when it's available to buy, they're like reaching down to give you $100 or $200, $300.
Yeah, I know, you're not wrong.
Right. So they like love you to such a high extent, and then they're buying what's made available to them. I'm sure a bunch would buy at the $25,000 level for you to help their company, but that's not the way your business is going. Correct. I don't think you want to do that. So if you want it to go the other way, then you do need to figure out a mechanism for exposing people that don't know you or your content at all, but come from bottom up, from your $10, $20, $30 offer, and then get exposed to, holy cow, this studio is as good as I thought it was going to be, as good as the original breadcrumbs that I picked up on Instagram that showed this kind of basic thing, but done in a very good way. When I get exposed to the rest of their content, I'm just going to eat it all up. I'm just going to buy the bundle because, I'm impressed.
See, I do. It's hard for me to internalize that, but I do think we have a competitive advantage in that our content is very, very good. I truly believe that, as much as it's hard for me to say, like, our stuff is the best. No, I actually think our stuff is very good.
Yeah. You know what I'm curious about? Remember Egghead? What isn't that?
Oh yeah.
Right. That was a big, like, developer education platform.
Yeah.
How did they get so much traffic? I feel like they were a bit of a machine around.
Yeah.
Did they?
Yeah, I think back in their heyday, they have very high, editorial quality standards as well, pushed by Joel, who has great taste. And I think they benefited a lot from the studio model, which brought in all these disparate audiences from all the instructors.
Right. The instructor would basically sell their Egghead course, and they had like this web. Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. So that is a play for us. I don't think any of the instructors we have for screencasting have big, standalone audiences, but that is a play for us as well that we could move towards. And the model there would be a Laracasts, which is like, they've got a bunch of guest instructors and, that is the destination. And I think screencasting could be the destination for video training, that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
What do you got going on the rest of the week, my man?
All right.
Have we done 2 hours? Let's turn.
We've done 2 hours. This is great. Yeah. Here, I got it. We can end on this one. I got one for you.
Okay. Yes.
You moved to a new city. Where did you move from? From Portland to somewhere?
From Portland to the Chicago suburbs.
There you go. You're an adult. So I'm at dinner last night.
Okay.
With the older set of twins. So two 3.5-year-olds, just me. Sometimes, we split them up to make everybody more sane. So I take the older ones out to dinner. And this guy and his wife walk in and he waves to me and I wave back. I'm like, hey man, local restaurant. So I'm like, I feel like I know this guy. After he sits down, I remember that guy's got twins and I've seen him at this restaurant before.
Okay.
That's how I know this guy.
Perfect.
And so I'm like, oh, okay, good. I've placed him. Like, he didn't have his kids with him, so it kind of threw me off. But I'm like, I remember talking to this guy. And, 30 minutes later, this guy walks over to me and he's like, hey man, you're twin dad, right? These are your twins? I'm like, yeah, you were here, a couple months ago. We talked, right? He's like, yeah, I just want to come over, see how you're doing. We talk, exchange pleasantries for a little while. And then he does the bravest thing I think any adult man can do. And he says, "Hey, we're trying to make friends in the area. Can I get your phone number?" And I said, "Absolutely." Like his twins are the same age as our younger twins. But I just put myself in his position of like, I'm a grown ass man walking over to this stranger that I met one time 4 months ago and putting myself out there to say, "Hey, we're trying to make friends in the area. Can I get your phone number?" And I was like, I can't imagine. I consider myself a very brave person, but that was like next level. Making friends as an adult in a new place. How do you do that? Because I watched that and I was like, good for you, man. Yes, you can have my phone number.
Yep. That's impressive and admirable. And I sympathize.
It's got to be tough.
Very much. Absolutely. My wife is good at it. She has made a bunch of friends. One of the reasons we moved here is because we had some friends in the area. We both went to school at Michigan, and a lot of people that go to Michigan are from the Chicago area and come back here afterward. And one of them was my wife's very close friends, her roommate in college, actually. And by insane coincidence, our house is 1116 and their house is 1115. It is directly across the street right there.
No way.
Right there. If you walk out my front door and walk along the path of the street and then just go across the street and continue on the path, it goes to their front door.
Your wife's college roommate lives across the street from you.
This is
you have no answers. You got it easy. You got it easy.
Relatively speaking, we have it easy. So, absurd bit of luck. Like she vouched for me when I got set up on a blind date with my wife when we first met.
Amazing.
Amazing coincidences. Now, because of that, she's had an entry point. And I have been left off to the side. And I'm going to guess that a lot of husbands, dads, single guys listening have this experience. We're just not as good at it as the ladies are in terms of getting together in book club and going to dinner and all that, right? So I will go weeks without seeing a friend. And if I stop to think about it, I care. But in the day-to-day, I don't feel this need for it. Only in hindsight where I'm like, I should expand my life a little bit.
So I've been thinking about onboarding a lot. I got to get some friends.
What am I doing here? So I do use modern technology to overcome a lot of that.
Tell me.
I talk to my brothers all day, every day on WhatsApp. With my dad, we're very close. My dad actually just moved here from Florida. Amazing. Right. So now all of a sudden he's like in our day-to-day lives. It's great. Between my brothers, my dad, my mom, and people online, and my colleagues. Rock is, that's who
I talk to Steve multiple times a day. Yes.
Yes. Jessica, I know these people. I care about them. I know their kids. Yep. So that does fulfill a lot of it. But there are times when, men need companionship in that way. And I am no exception to it. My problem is I am incapable of being inauthentic for long periods of time. I just don't have that much in common with a lot of men my age. I don't care about sports. I just don't.
You should move to Dallas. We could hang out.
Oh my God.
I just don't care. I just don't care.
Chicago sports town. Dallas sports town.
Sports town.
So when a few guys get together and they start talking sports, then they start talking about our kids' sports teams. I'm like, guys, what are we talking about here?
Worse is who we're gonna draft next year.
Yeah.
It's not even what's going on in a league or even my kids' league I could probably care about. But
yes.
Oh man, how's the draft lineup looking? And you're like, brother, I have no idea what you're saying.
No idea. Okay, so that we are in a category that's a challenge. And and it's, as much as I admire your new potential friend, if you get together and have lunch, which you should, if he's all up in the sports and works a W-2, it's going to be tough, man.
It's going to be tough. Yeah.
So I just sympathize for myself, for you, for a lot of other people listening. If you work from home, you don't have an office, you can find yourself pretty lonely. Even if you don't actually feel lonely, but you have created a kind of a lonely life. So you got to figure out ways to do something about that. I'm going with my friends from college to see the Dead in Vegas at the Sphere.
Okay, cool.
I probably went multiple years without doing anything like that.
Mm.
And I'm trying to get better at it. I had a particular version of the disease that said, when you make more money, you're going to do all this fun stuff.
Yep.
And I just pushed it off and pushed it off. No, I'm focused on work. And when I make a bunch of money, then I'll do all of that. And then a few years go by and you're like, this is just what a career is. Like,
Yeah.
stop, pushing things off into the future.
The road expands before me. What is happening?
Yes. And then you do the thing where you look back 5 years. And if you had told yourself that you'd be here now, you'd be like, oh, so now you must be hanging out with all your friends and going to the Dead shows and all that stuff. Okay. And then what I do is I'm just a bloodhound for entrepreneurs. I spot them and I find them in the local area. As soon as I find one, I just gravitate toward, are you thinking about the same things I'm thinking about? Like, do you not care about this football game at all? And you really actually
go talk B2B SaaS over in the corner?
Yes. So I found someone here who runs an AI consumer company that builds like books for kids and makes the kid like the star of the book.
Love it.
Love it. I'm like, let's go get coffee, my man.
So where did you find this person?
At a party.
Okay.
That my wife got invited to and I just go along and, I'm like, I'm the husband. Let's see if I have anything to say. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And then as soon as we kind of identified, we're like, oh, you live in this town, which is not an entrepreneurial town, then we should hang out. It's really, really tough. Leaving Portland was hard because when I first got to Portland, I went to a MicroConf meetup. And then we went to MicroConf like a month later and we realized, oh, there are like 25 of us.
A lot of Portland MicroConfers.
And then we started, maybe I have the timing mixed up. Then we started going to lunches. And then from that group of like 15 people, you shrink it down. And those like 5 or 6 people, I still talk to in Slack all the time. And some of our families got close. And so Ruben Gomez is there and John Ewalt is there and Jared. And like, so we have this thing and that turned into real friendship. And it's been 3 years here in Chicago. I don't have it yet. So I got work to do.
Well, walk up to guys in restaurants and ask for their numbers. I can't see that going wrong at all, but it worked. It worked for Aziz. Aziz got my number and we're going to hang out at some point. So I just thought that was like incredibly brave. And I knew that you had moved and I thought, how do people do this?
Where do you put yourself on the scale of like 1 to 10 on like, no, I have like a friendship life, not like a social or, you're married. All that.
I think I'm pretty high up there, but that's because, I'm in Texas. I live in Dallas, went to Texas A&M, which is 3 hours away. Then a lot of people came back to Dallas.
Okay, cool.
And then we're also very involved in church life. And so we've made a lot of friends through like, both of those things are through like structured organizations, and that's the thing that scares me is like, once you're out there on your own, you don't go to church, you're not in your college town or a town adjacent to your college. Then what?
Well,
I don't know.
The office was that other structure.
And there's no office.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and
I feel good.
We don't belong to a temple because I'm not religious at all. So, and I've considered joining a temple more and more. Partly for that exposure of other people with
structured serendipity. You can bump into some people.
The starting point.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Here's my question to you.
Tell me.
Do you know that there's a weekend coming up and that you should make plans for it? I do not know. I'm just like, it's Friday. And unless someone invited me to like, what are you doing this weekend? No. I never think, hey, it's the weekend. I should do something social other than, do whatever driving is required.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely not.
I'm trying to get over that problem. That's the key problem. No.
Never, ever have I thought, oh shoot, it's Thursday. I wonder, I got to get some stuff moving.
Do you remember
for Saturday?
At some point in our lives, we were like, "What are you doing?"
Oh yeah,
weekend?
And it was the fear. Life. It was a fear of like, oh shoot, I don't have any weekend plans.
Yeah.
What's everybody doing? And you start texting like, hey, are you doing anything?
Yeah,
are you doing anything? All right, we got to do something. Yeah. No, so I have benefited a lot from like recurring, like scheduled hangs.
Okay.
And so every month we do a supper club. It's like 4 couples, and we rotate houses. And so every month there's at least one time I'm going to see 6 other people.
And a month goes
super fast. And so we're doing a no kids dinner.
Same 4 couples.
Same 4.
Different house every time.
Different houses. And
if you get to cook for people.
Yes, and if you're not cooking, you're not expected to bring a goddamn thing. So it's not like every month it's like, oh, I gotta
we
do a
gotta
potluck,
scramble.
I gotta bring a salad, I gotta make a pie. No. Once every 4 months, you have to do the whole thing, and then you're off. So that's great.
Cool.
Huge.
I
Love
like
that.
I like it.
I do a guy's breakfast every 3-4 weeks. We do that pretty regularly. Once a year, we do a guy's college reunion, like 12 years in a row or 13 years in a row, whatever now. Just solid. 8 to 10 guys every single time.
Good for you. We fell off. Do you go to the same place every time? Do you go back to college, or do you
we go to the same area. We go down to the Austin area, but out in the hill country.
Okay.
But it's a different Airbnb every time. Always river adjacent. So all we ever do is we get Yetis full of beers and we go sit in the river and just laugh and throw rocks at sticks and be like, hey, do you think you can hit that?
Yep.
And that's all we do for like 3 days.
It's tough.
How
good that is.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have Sunday morning church is not a place where you meet a ton of people because it's like we got 4 kids in tow.
But it is a regular thing.
But it is regular.
Yeah.
And then we have a Wednesday night Bible study, and that's kid free. And so that's more like Jennifer and I take turns because we're not going to pay for a babysitter every Wednesday night. But that's still another. Okay, so we have a lot of scheduled.
It's good. The more structure, the better on that front. If it's left up to me,
yes, it goes 3 years, and
it'll be
that you have
mail
friends
over here to my right on the floor that will literally stay there for 12 months.
Yep. Feel that?
Not good. Okay.
All right.
I'm motivated. Toward my ideology, toward making content, toward making more friends. Aaron, thanks.
Listen, if your ideology combines with your going back to temple, keep the ideology down a little bit. You don't want to walk into temple and say, "I pray to the God of capitalism."
No.
They're gonna be like, come on.
You know, one. I'm not religious at all. I was raised not going to temple, but that side of my life has made itself more of a priority since October 7th than in the past.
That. Yeah.
And I like it.
Good.
I like it. It's a feeling of more meaning and less isolation. Yeah. So in many ways, it's just in my head because a lot of my actions haven't changed that much. But that doesn't matter. There
is obviously, I think there are very, very good things about religion, but another good thing about it is you're a part of a group of people. You're a part of a group of people. And there's like a sense of belonging. And I think that's very powerful.
Yeah. I not dismissed, maybe I avoided or ignored that because I didn't have it. I moved here as an immigrant, not religious, didn't join a temple, went to school, and then just kind of, Judaism just didn't have much of a role in my life. And I feel isolated as an immigrant to begin with. All my family's back in Israel.
Sure.
And so I think after the 7th, I was like, ooh, I think I actually need not want. I think I actually need some feeling of belonging. And now it feels more balanced in that way. It's nice.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, obviously, about the circumstances, but I'm glad you feel a little bit of balance there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right.
This has been great.
Proud, Ian.
Yeah, Ian, we did 2 hours just for you so you can listen to this while you're waiting in line at Disney World or whatever you are.
Are you a Disney hater? Come on.
I'm not a Disney enjoyer. Okay. Yeah, I'm a Disney skeptic.
Okay. Fair.
Yeah, Ian has tried to talk me out of it. It just feels like an expensive way to wait in line, but I could be wrong.
My hack is Disneyland in California.
Okay,
not Disney World.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was as skeptical as you, and I went with little kids, and it overcame my skepticism.
I am sure that my point of view will change when they hit 5, 6, 7, 8, and we go. But right now, there's no chance you couldn't get me there. There's no chance.
That's when I went. Also, I think what kids were like, 5, 7, and 9, and even the 5-year-old was a bit young. Aaron.
All right, where can people find you, Jordan?
Oh, yes. Okay. If you are an SMB owner and need an AI voice agent, go to heyrosie.com. If you want to talk more directly, I'm on Twitter @JordanGall.
Except for next week when he's in Hawaii. But otherwise, he's on Twitter.
And keep an eye out for my threads. And
oh, boy. Oh, boy.
For my upcoming podcast. Yes.
Oh, I can't wait. Dude, this was...
to join me for an episode.
I would love that. This was a blast. Thanks for giving me 2 hours of your time. This is so much fun. So thank you all for listening. You can find everything at mostlytechnical.com. Thank you to the sponsors for making this possible, and we'll see you next week.